Hey guys, chaotic over here. It's not gonna be the same as it's been the last few days. My kids will probably come in and out of this video today, and I might yell once or twice because they have been fighting all afternoon. So, and my little guy's awake, so it's chaotic. But I hope you guys have patience with me. You know, this is pretty much the life of a coach. It's kind of going on the go and go with the flow. So we're going to be talking about emotional eating, guys. I know this is a topic that a lot of you had asked me about and to help you. And so I hope to shed some light on it and really how to identify emotional eating and how to kind of like nip it in the butt. It's not going to happen overnight. And again, sorry, I'm going to have to talk loud because my little guy is awake. All right, I'm going to have to get you, Papa. Yeah, this is the only way. He's probably going to just chill for a little bit. So, and he's probably going to distract you guys. Are you going to just pay attention? Pay attention to me, okay? Not to the little guy. I'm just kidding. So we're going to talk about emotional eating, guys, and how to identify it and how to kind of help reduce emotional eating. Because honestly, a lot of us have emotional eating, and you know, it's what it is. As what it sounds is, you know, you're eating because of certain feelings you're having. And some people have asked me, like, how can I differentiate between hunger and emotional eating? The main way to figure out whether you are emotionally eating or you're hungry is when you're hungry, you'll eat anything because you just want to satisfy that hunger. But when you're emotionally eating, it's usually attributed to a craving, something specific that you need. And I'm talking about like chocolate or maybe like comfort foods, right? Like pasta or bread, or like there's certain foods that you will crave when you're emotionally eating. And it's because you're attributing it to that feeling, right? So, and it's usually you know, related to different emotions. And so we're going to talk about that because I want you guys to kind of figure out what's triggering that emotional eating. And you know, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not going to like tell you like this is how you treat that. But I hope to show you how to figure out what's triggering it so that you can kind of document it, and then if you need like a deeper help, is no other way to say it, then you can seek a professional help. Or, you know, what I personally do is I try to feed my mind the best stuff, you know, personal development and things that will help me to change my my emotions and my immediate emotions that I feel in certain situations. So let's talk about how we get stuck here. And I have my little notes here because I will probably get distracted with the kids. So best, you know, it's funny because a lot of times people mention emotional eating, and, you know, people that want to treat emotional eating want to treat the behavior, right? And that's usually what we're trying to fix is like, okay, Natalie, help me to stop eating chocolate. But that's the behavior, and we're not trying to treat the behavior because the behavior is just a side effect of the emotion you're feeling. So really, you know, if you really want to stop eating chocolate in a certain time of the afternoon, or if you want to stop eating pizza or you're craving pizza, you have to figure out what's triggering that. So it's not that I'm going to help you stop eating those foods. If anything, it's going to help you. I'm going to try to help you to treat the, not treat it, but identify what that emotion is and figure out what you can do about it, okay? So first tip is in regards to treating the emotion, right? You have to identify it first. That is the first thing you need to do to find out what is causing this emotional eating. And is it physical hunger or is it emotional eating? So think before you go reach for that food, ask yourself, am I craving a specific food or am I hungry? Now, if you are craving a specific food, note the emotion that's going along with that. Are you feeling angry? Are you feeling anxious? Are you feeling sad? Are you feeling, I don't know, whatever other emotions you can attribute food to, right? Or even boredom is something's an emotion that we feel. And so you want to find out first, okay? Note that emotion. The moment that you start feeling craving that chocolate, craving those sugary, carby foods, think about, okay, what am I feeling right now? Okay, and realize that what you're trying to do is soothe that emotion. You're trying to mask that emotion, and so you want to stop it. You want to nip it in the butt. And so the best thing you can do at that very moment is wait at least 10 to 15 minutes before you go reach for that food, and that'll allow you that time to kind of absorb that feeling. And what is causing that feeling? Like, if you're feeling angry, is it your kids that are making you feel angry? Is it you know, coming home from work and seeing a mess on the floor? Is that causing you anger? And so you are craving that food immediately, right? It's something that you're trying to mask that feeling and treat it with food. Yeah, Papa. I told you he's gonna be a little fussier. I know, see, I know. Are you angry? Are you gonna be emotionally eating too? And so once you identify that, you want to describe it and describe exactly what you're doing. And what I would do at this point is write it down, because you want to start to kind of put things together and figure out, okay, what time of the day am I feeling like this, and what am I feeling? And so if you start to document that, you can kind of see a trend and kind of backtrack and look at, okay, is it certain events throughout the day that are causing me to feel this way? Is there a trigger that is causing me to this, right? Is it my kids yelling at the top of their lungs that triggers me to get anxious and stressed, which therefore causes me to go get the food, right? So you want to, if that's the case, then you want to take that moment, take a deep breath, and try to attack the instance of the problem that's happening around you, which is, for my case, you know, my kids yelling. And I'm only talking from my personal experience because I've had emotional eating too, and I know what triggers it. So that's the second tip, okay? And you got to realize too that, you know, when we're differentiating between emotional eating and hunger, this is another thing, is that lots of times we're in between meals, right? We just had lunch, and it's like, you know, maybe you had lunch like at 12 and it's 3 o'clock and you're like starving. And some people get anxious. They get anxious because they're like, oh my gosh, I am starving. I need to eat food like right now. And a lot of people attribute it to like a food emergency. Like, if I don't eat right now, I will die, right? There are people that react that way when they're hungry. And you got to realize too that, you know, being hungry is not a food emergency. We can survive at least 24 hours without eating. Perfectly fine, guys. And so you got to also attribute like hunger as not a bad thing. Hunger, you know, you have to understand that it's just, you got to let your stomach rest sometimes, right? Because we're so used to eating like every hour and a half. And that's me, because I'm like a snacker. I'm constantly snacking throughout the day. And so I have issues with this too, and when I fast, I am like in a panic mode because I am so used to like it's a thing, an attribution that we have to deprivation. Like, we are not used to being deprived, right? Especially in our Western culture, right? We have everything that we need at the moment, but just realize that hunger is not an emergency, and the anxiety that we have towards that is something that we gotta like pay attention to. Like, why are we anxious about food? Is there another reason why we are attributing food with anxiety, or like treating that anxiety with food? Okay. And so we have to understand what is causing that anxiety. So again, it's like understanding the feelings, and so the main thing is learning how to rewire your mind in when you have those feelings. Okay. And that's why it's good to document what you're feeling. And the next thing that you can do, maybe the third tip, is once you attribute that feeling, instead of waiting 10-15 minutes, tell yourself, okay, I'm going to eat this food in an hour. I'll give yourself some leeway and be like, okay, I can have this food, but I'm not going to have it right now. I'm going to have it in an hour. And what that does, it helps you to really absorb those feelings, really attack them, and figure out how to, I guess, treat them in a different method, a different way versus with food. And I'm sure the longer you wait, I'm sure like once that hour hits, you most likely will not be craving that food any longer, because you've already kind of nipped the emotion in the butt, hopefully by that point. And if you're still craving it at that point, then have it. You know, it's a lot of people are saying like, oh, I don't want to go on a diet because I'm going to be deprived, right? And that's like our biggest anxiety with meals and dieting and all this. And that's why I personally don't like the word dieting, because it gives me anxiety. Because we don't want to, nobody wants to be deprived of anything. And so it makes us more anxious to think it that way. So, you have to rewire your brain and think, you know what? It's not I'm depriving myself. I'm just going to have it later. And the more you do that, you start to rewire your brain. And you start to train yourself that when you have this emotion, there's other methods of treating it than treating it with food. There are other methods. Food is not the only medicine to treat our mental instability, I would call it, right? That anxiety, the sadness, the boredom. We have to like figure out a different method to treat that anxiety or whatever we may be feeling. So that's kind of how you can treat it is rewiring your brain. And again, it goes back to building habits and daily habits. And so it's not going to happen overnight. And so it's going to be hard in the beginning. It's the same thing as when you start working out. It is very hard because you are like going against the grain. You're going against what your brain is used to. And so you're telling your brain like, no, Natalie, I'm going to wake up at 5 in the morning, even though I always wake up at 7. And your brain is like, what is going on? But if you do it consistently every single day, you get to the point where your body is like, I need this. Or in the opposite, or I don't need this chocolate. I don't need this self-medication of food. So, you have to start training your mind that way as well. And if you start to develop those habits on a daily basis, it'll help you. And then the fifth practice again is realize that. Let me see if I can find it here. So the other thing that I wanted to mention about cravings and emotional eating is that I personally believe, after doing like the reading about the gut and gut health, is that also is attributed to emotional eating. And I mentioned a little bit about this on Monday. And the example I can give you again is with sleep deprivation, right? When you are sleep deprived, what happens, like I mentioned on Monday, is your cortisol levels increase. That hormone is the stress hormone. And what calms that hormone down? It is the serotonin hormone. And what gives you serotonin, or what increases serotonin? It is comfort foods. So you do it enough times of eating this comfort food, it automatically becomes that drug. There's other methods to increase your serotonin levels, but our main way to do it right now, the majority of us, is through eating, right? That increases our serotonin levels, which then decreases the cortisol, which makes us feel calm. And so if you figure that out, you're like, okay, if I continue giving myself these foods, what I'm doing is just making it worse. It's like a drug, guys. It literally is a drug. And they've done studies where they've shown that sugar is as addictive or more than cocaine. And it's scary to know that I'm not going to say it's more dangerous for you, but it does obviously have its side effects, right? But it's as addictive as cocaine. And the reason for that is, when going back to gut health and bacteria in our stomach or in our intestine, is bad bacteria in our intestines, the ones you don't want in your intestines, feeds off sugar, carbs, all the bad stuff, right? And carbs are not bad, but like the bad carbs, it feeds off of that. And so every time you eat this really carb-loaded sugar foods, it's feeding the bad bacteria. That bad bacteria sends signal to your brain, which then tells you, I want more. But it's not that you want more. It is that bacteria is sending signals to your brain that I want more of that food because it's feeding me. And so it's like this horrible cycle where you feel like crap, but then you continue eating it because your body is craving it more. And so it's like a vicious cycle. And, you know, I've been doing my reading about it, and I'm not mentioning this because I don't want you guys to go out there and try to do this on your own. But I want you to do your research, and I'm going to try to find the doctor's website who mentioned this method. And she talks about one way besides the rewiring your brain by, you know, delaying eating the food and thinking about your emotions. Is another way is to really do a fast. And they talk about doing a fast of more than 1 day. And so I don't want to give you the details because I don't understand it quite yet, and I don't want to give you wrong information. But it made a lot of sense in regards to fasting, because honestly, you are by fasting, you are allowing your intestines to rest. Hold on, guys. My little guy's bowl fell down. Where did it go, buddy? Where did it go? Oh, here it is. And so I personally believe there's a lot of benefits to fasting, and it helps you with, you know, to almost like rewire your stomach, and it gives you that break that you need from eating all this junk. And so it is a good way, but you have to do it correctly. You can't just go out there and just like, oh, I'm gonna just randomly fast. Like, don't do that, guys. And I will try to find that link to give it to you. So if you are interested in doing that, totally go for it. But it has to be done correctly. But the other method too is, besides, again, always first try the first one. That's the least invasive one, which again is you want to just stop. Don't go for the food at the moment. And then, you know, think about the emotions and the feelings that you're feeling at that moment when you want to eat that specific food. And then the second one obviously is avoiding those foods if you can, because again, you're feeding the bad bacteria in your gut. And then the other thing that you can do is, and I will say this carefully, is, hey Jonah, they say after eating Chinese I feel crappy. Yeah, and Chinese food is really bad. Like, not just the MSG, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's really bad for your gut, and so that's why you may feel bloating and all this other stuff, and it affects your brain. It causes you brain fog, and yeah, it's not good for you. But the last thing that I would mention is about a tip that I would recommend is a detox. And you got to be careful with detoxes, because there's like a million ways of doing detoxes, and they're not all made the same. You want to do it where it's strategically done and done in a healthy way, where you're not starving yourself, because there's people that do juicing for, you know, a few days or whatever, a week or however long for detoxing, and that's just not a good way to do it. But I feel like the best one that I've seen is a reset program. It's a 21-day program, and that one, it provides you, it's a hard program. It's probably one of the hardest programs I've seen, even harder than a workout program. But it's because it resets your body. It lets you take a break from all the processed foods, all the all the fake stuff out there that's not good for you. And it gives you your body what it really needs, and it kind of helps heal your gut, and that's kind of what we need. And it's always good to do like a reset at least once a year. It's a hard 21 days, but if you do it once a year, it's doable. And again, like I said, it will help you to beat those bacteria in your stomach, which they can be overwhelming you. In your body, and so it's almost, sometimes some people say that it's almost impossible to stop because it's just gotten out of hand. And so I personally would recommend it. And I can give, if you guys want some more information about that, I could totally give you the information for it. And one of my girls, Tiffany, just finished hers last month, and so I can give you guys her info, and she can let you guys know how it was. She did great on it, and she survived. A lot of people feel like it's too hard to do, but she survived. But yeah, those are the methods I would definitely recommend. But again, go with the least invasive. You want to try to nip those emotions in the butt first. And so, if you can, when you have that very moment when you get that feeling to eat a certain food, wait 10 to 15 minutes. And if you can, tell yourself you're going to have it in an hour. And note what emotion or feelings you're feeling at that moment, and write them down. Write down the time, and you want to kind of backtrack and figure out what's causing that feeling and that emotion. And so, you know, I know it's hard as moms, and I know that you know, we have a lot of stresses in our life, and it's kind of a way for us to kind of slow down and kind of relax, and it's just like the worst medicine we can give ourselves. So I would say, you know, if you can, there's other methods, there's exercise, there's whatever you can find that will kind of beat or help you with that specific emotion you're feeling. And I know there are people that have mentioned to me individually that said that they have, you know, certain like PTSD and greater anxiety issues. And those, I would say, you know, it is related to your gut as well. Once you treat your gut and give it the best nutrition, I truly believe that those things will minimize. I don't know if they'll go away completely, because I can't say that for personal experience, but it will minimize. So again, everything is related to our food. And so the sooner you can treat those emotions, those feelings, the better you'll feel overall. So you want to, you know, avoid those things. And what I personally do, guys, is I just don't have those foods in my house. And so when I start to crave it, all I can do is like fight through it, because I don't have it in my house, and I'm not going to go drive to the supermarket to buy some ice cream. And so I avoid putting it in my house. So that's my tip personally too, is just don't have it in your house. Avoid it at all costs. So I hope that helps. If you have any questions after this, let me know. I try to keep it as general as possible. I don't want to give you any details as to specific methods like the detox and the fast, but I will share the links for those if you're interested, and help you out with that as well. And if you have any other struggles in regards to your nutrition, let me know, and we can talk some more detail about that as well. So I hope you guys have an awesome Thursday, and see you guys tomorrow.